All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new WWTS website or software, and we'll be taking a look at the new design as well as some of the new functionality within that site so that everyone is familiar with it and comfortable with it before we go live. My name is Chase Hayes, and I work in the software department here at OMC, and I want to point out a couple of things before we get started. I will be following up after this session with an email that will contain 2 links. One of those links will be for a training site for the new WWTS software. That will be a fully functioning version of the software that you can poke around in and get used to and get the hang of before we go live with the actual site. And I will also be providing a link for a legacy site that will be live Monday. That will host the current WWTS software for anyone who is not ready to make the transition to the new software. That current version will be hosted for a limited time to allow that transition to be a little bit smoother for you. We will be going live with this new version this coming Monday. Okay. The first thing I'd like to point out before I even log in, you may notice that I am using Firefox. One of the big components of this new design is the compatibility with multiple browsers. You now will be able to access functioning WWTS in newer versions of Internet Explorer, Firefox, Google Chrome. The software itself will actually even run in Safari for Mac users. Unfortunately, Crystal Reporting, which our reports use, has a conflict with Mac itself, so the reporting capabilities are not there with Safari, but maneuvering through the software, completing encounters, meeting with participants, all of that is capable in Safari. It's just the reporting piece that would not be able to be completed in Safari. For that, if you're a Mac user, you would actually need to download Firefox or Google Chrome onto your Mac and use that to run your reports, because the Crystal Reporting application does not function very well with Safari browser. Okay. One thing that I forgot to mention is with the new training site, you will be able to use your current WWTS login and password to access that training site once I send that link out. Okay, and you may have already noticed, I'm pretty sure you've probably already noticed, the new design, the new look for WWTS. It has a whole new feel, a new smoother look. One of the things that I want to point out right offhand is the tabs across the top. We no longer have all of the tabs laid out. We have a set of 4 tabs that contain a sub-menu underneath each one of those tabs, so as you navigate through, you'll see those menus change and pop up. We also have the highlight boxes here in the center of the page for your open encounters, your recent encounters. Those will display below when you click on those. This middle box is the protocols, so you still have access to all of the protocols in the system very quickly from the Home tab and from the home page. Okay. The first thing we're going to look at today is going to be the participant tab. We're going to take a quick look at some of the changes that have taken place. While I maneuver through the site, you will notice that much of the functionality is still the same. And some of this may be a review for you if you went to our website and looked at the video that we put together. It was kind of a quick overview of some of the changes. So you may have already seen some of this if you watched that video, but we're going to take a look at the actual participants tab, view the demographics, edit the demographics, and see what is new there. Okay, so this is the participant demographic page. You can see it has all of the same demographic information. The only change here is the design and the styling behind the page itself. Some of the table stylings are a little bit different. We still have the quick view on the left-hand side of the page. That still contains all of the same relevant information that you will use day to day in the WWTS system. Some of the buttons that you are used to finding, close participant, edit demographics, go to encounter, those kinds of buttons, have moved to the right side of the page here, and they've been made a little bit larger so they're easier to navigate through and locate. And what we're going to actually do now is go in and take a look at editing the participant demographics. This is one of the areas where we made a couple of changes to the way that it lays out. And you'll see a trend as we go through the rest of this. And that trend is going to be the tabs. Everything has been put into tabs across the top of the page to organize it a little bit better rather than having a list of options running down a page. So the information hasn't changed. The way that you put the data in has not changed. What stores and the back end has not changed. Okay, so when we're looking at a participant, we still have the company, the employee ID, the alternate ID, the name, the date of birth, the demographic information. What has changed is how you find things. So we're going to take a look at the family tab. Now, if you remember in the current WWTS, when you're looking at a participant demographic, the family box is down towards the bottom of the page, and instead of having a long-running page like I mentioned, we now have it in its own tab, where we would just click Edit Family, and we would have the same option that we currently have to add family members to this individual. I've already added a spouse to his account, so we're not going to add any more right now. The work location is the same thing. That would be your hierarchy setup and your structure. So, becoming familiar with these tabs and navigating through these tabs so you know where things are would be a good thing to do when you have access to that training site, just to become familiar with what goes under what tab, so that you can flow through the site a little pretty easily. Let's take a look at the encounter process. Not much has changed in the encounter process either. The big difference here is going to be mostly the styles behind the tables that you view during the encounter process. So we're going to set our participant to active, and going to answer a couple of consent questions here. None of this really is going to be new for any of you because you are currently using WWTS. So again, getting used to the way that it looks is really going to be the only real change that's going to take place when we go live with this new version of WWTS. Okay, so looking at the encounter process. All right, we have the questions. You can see the questions are still red. When I answer these questions, they will turn black. So we still have that existing functionality. We still have the same tabs across the top of the screen to navigate through the different sets of questions and the different groupings. We have the tabs across the top for the measurements, the risk, the worksheet, and the summary, the same as we currently do in WWTS. So clicking the measurements button here will progress us through those tabs. As you can see, the tables do look a little bit different, but the same measurements are there, your systolic, diastolic, height, weight, BMI, cholesterol, HDL, and so on. So we're just going to punch in a couple of numbers quickly here so that we can move through this encounter process. Okay, and you can see that the risk tab is essentially the same. We have the same grid down towards the bottom where we can view all of the encounters with the pop-up information regarding the risks making up the risk score. We have the same chart that shows the overall risk score and the changes that have been made from encounter to encounter. And then we have the working and override table. We're going to select a couple of these to work on so that when we go into the worksheet, you can see a couple of the minor changes that have been made within the worksheet. Okay, we have with the worksheet, we still have the long-term goal, the short-term goals, the stages of change. We have added a working risk progression, which is a feature that won't be immediately ready when we go live. It is part of another piece that we are currently working on, but the goal there is to utilize that piece to track working risk progression for individual risks. We also have the the handouts that are relevant to the selected risks, which is the same functionality that you currently have in WWTS. At the bottom of the page, you still have the ability to select a topic or a risk criteria that maybe was not selected to work on and provide additional information on that. And we still have in the follow-up date needs to be set towards the end of the encounter. We also have the benchmark progress status. So as I stated, much of the functionality and the way that you move through encounters and the encounter process and dealing with participants is pretty much going to stay the same, with the exception of some small, minor fluctuations here and there. The big change is the look, the design, and where some of these items might be, because we've moved them into the tabs. They might not be in the same location that you're used to seeing them. Okay, so let's close this encounter. And the next thing that we're going to take a quick look at is going to be the company consent setup. I want to take a quick peek at the hierarchy setup and how that's changed and where that's moved to. This is the company consent setup tab. It is under the admin tab, which is the second one on the top here. So we're going to take a look at this demo company that I'm working in. You'll see that, again, we have a set of tabs across the top that break down the different pieces for this company setup. The one that I really want to focus on is the company sublevels. So you'll see it's a little bit different than the way that it works now in the current WWTS. So I'm going to add a sublevel so that you can see that process and understand how that works. Really, all we're going to do is click Add Sublevel. Going to assign that sublevel a name. This one we're going to call Floor, because it's going to be the floor that our individual works on. We're going to give the sublevel a description. We'll call it Floor again. And we will put that in the fourth level for the hierarchy element. I already have 3 other levels. We have state, city, department. Now we'll have floor. So once I have my sublevels put together, I will go to Manage Sublevel Entities, and this is where I will actually create those entities for my sublevels within. So we have my state, my city, we have the department. We can add a new department within that city. So again, the overall functionality of how you're doing this and how you're changing your sublevels is really not different than it currently is. The way that it looks and maybe the way that it feels the first couple of times that you're doing it may be a little bit different. So we're going to add the floor now. The floor is the second floor. That is the piece that I just added for the fourth level of the hierarchy structure. And we'll update that. And now we have the second floor added to our HR department in Orlando, Florida. Okay. All right. One of the other areas where you may see some change is going to be the user management setup. I have one user in here. He's the demo user that I'm currently under. So we'll take a look at his setup. You can see that the information, again, similar to the participant demographic, all of the input fields and the data entry fields are all the same. The information that you're entering is going to be the same, but we've moved our pieces out into relevant tabs. So we have the username and password. We have the user roles, which can be applied to an individual user, the modification history, and then we have the tracking of what has been done with that user. So again, same functionality, different look. This is why I really would recommend getting into the training site and poking around in there, just so you can become familiar with where these pieces are, what tab is it under, so that you're not trying to find that stuff out when you're actually sitting down with a participant. The last piece that we are really going to take a look at and focus on that really shows more change is going to be the reporting tab. So Reports are under the Data tab across the top, and then we have Reporting in the submenu. And the reports have been broken down into tabs as well. If you recall the current setup, they're broken into these categories of admin reports, company reports, incident reports, and outcome reports. But they're all listed on one page, and it becomes a really long scrolling page to try to scroll through and find your reports. So what we've done is we've moved them into these tabs so that when you go to this tab, you're only looking at the reports within that category. Okay? The same reports are there. The criteria that you're entering for these reports is going to be the same. The outcome from running these reports, or the output, excuse me, is going to be the same. So none of that has changed. The only thing that has changed here is where the reports are located and how they look when you get into actually selecting the criteria. So to show that, we're going to run the current behavior risk score report, and we'll run it for today's date. And I'm going to select all. You can already see the difference here. It does already look a little bit different than the current WWTS stylings for when you're selecting your criteria. So please note that the selections within the criteria are still the same. You still have the date that you're selecting, the wellness status, participant type, gender, age. You can still select whether someone is on company medical or not on medical, and your company, as well as the sub-levels within that company, if you're looking to select a specific location. All right, so we're going to run this report so you can see that the outcome from, or the output on these reports is still identical to what we have currently. There really is no change to the reporting factor. Okay. And here is the report itself. I only have one individual in there, so that's see that my low risk is 100%. That's a great number. But the report itself has not changed. So keep that in mind while you're looking through WWTS and while you're going in and playing with the training site, that although things look different, they may be in different locations, the general functionality is still the same. Okay? That is our overview of the new WWTS system right now. I would like to open it up. If anybody has any questions, I have everyone muted, but you do have a chat box on the bottom of the right panel on your right-hand side of your screen. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and post those in the chat. We'll wait a couple of minutes to make sure anybody who has questions has the opportunity to post those, and we'll get those answered for you. Okay, one of the questions that came through was, does the screen still refresh whenever you answer the questions? There is still a refresh when you do answer the questions, but I'll actually pull one up so we can take a look at it, and I'll answer a couple of the questions while we run through. It does not seem to be as bad as it was with the current WWTS system, or as much of a refresh or a full screen blink or change that you're used to seeing with the current WWTS system. So when I answer these questions, there is still a little refresh time. So if I go through and I answer them quickly, it may not pick them up if I answer them back to back to back to back. But if I take a second between answering them, they do turn red, and the screen will refresh, but it's not a full screen flash like you're used to. All right, did anybody else have any questions? All right, another question that we have is, does the publications, or do the publications that you select with the encounter, print with the encounter summary? You still have to print those individually. The functionality there where you're selecting those publications and attaching them will not trigger them to print when you print the summary, you'll still have to print those individually, but they do carry over so you can open them from that window. Yes, all of the settings as far as user management settings still act the same. The question was, do all of the admin to PWP users still act the same? The using the admin management tab, I believe, is what you're looking for there. So I can actually pull that up for you. If we go into the record management admin tab and pull up our demo user. Yes, the resetting the passwords, locking PWP accounts, unlocking the accounts, all of that functionality is still there and still functions the same. Let's look at the demo user here. I'll pull him up in the record management admin tab. You can see that that is still the same. We still have he's not registered, so it says confirm PWP account. If he were registered, that's where you would see the reset password, which would still populate a password and give you a new temporary password right below here in this white space is where that would pop up for him. All right, are there any other questions? The link that I have a question about the incentive tab. The incentive tab is a module that is still in development right now, so we're not going to go into that in depth, but it is something that we are developing to help with incentive tracking and reporting. Okay, so we are coming to a close. Please, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email us at support@OMC-Wellness, and we will get an answer to that for you. Remember, I will be sending out a follow-up email shortly that will have the link for the training site so you can get in there and poke around and get used to the site before we go live next Monday. And I will also be providing the link for the legacy site, which will be live Monday if you are not ready to make the jump to the new WWTS software. All right. Again, if you have any questions, please contact us at OMC-Wellness at support@omcwellness.com. And if you have not already, please visit our new website. We've completely redone our website. That would be www.omcwellness.com. And if we don't have any other questions, I'll go ahead and we'll come to a close here. All right, thank you. Everybody have a great day.